All right, so I got a doozy of a video for you coming up here. We're drawing a double page spread today. There is a whole bunch of thinking going on while I'm drawing. You will get the full mind meld of what I'm thinking about when I am creating a double page spread. I go over a couple tips that I come across if it comes to perspective or creating an image form of an object, things like that. It's useful information that's helped me along. Hopefully it helps you guys out. Let's just jump right into it, guys. So with a big double page spread like this, the sketchbook is where all the thinking begins. Since the continuity of the boots walking, you'd want to see the main character. I had the motifs of the crane, the brick buildings, all this stuff. And so I had that idea, but I kept working through it and I kept doing like just rough studies of what it would look like the brick buildings framing this, and you had the crowd down there, all this stuff. But then it's like, what am I looking at? Am I looking at this roof? Am I looking at that? Like, what's going on? But then I just kept pushing it further and further, and I was like, well, this kind of feels flat. The catwalk is flat. I wanted things on angles, and I wanted more dynamism. So I finally got to the stage where I had these vertical lines going up into space in perspective, kind of establishing like a worm's eye view. And that felt a lot better to me to sort of control the eye of where the reader's looking, use different environmental aspects like the catwalk or the crane to point to where I want the reader to focus. And once you create a thumbnail that you feel good about, it's a lot easier to then move onto big paper. So that's one perspective line. As well is on that same vanishing point going this way. The top of this roof and the section of brick right here. The blue line pencils sort of give me a chance to intuitively lay in the perspective lines, and the vanishing points might end up being way off the picture plane. Going up into the sky, way up there. We don't really know what that vanishing point is, because this crane right now might not line up on that axis. The vanishing point is all the way up there. It might be more like this, and it might be more diagonal. This gap feels a lot wider. So if we measure. So on the left, I found that the gap that the perspective created was about like 1.25 inches or something. So I measured increments on the left. And then on the right, it was wider because that is farther away from the vanishing point. And I was able to get more lines in perspective using this trick. So if these, in theory, if these two lines kept going over this way, and this line kept going all the way over this way, they would meet somewhere way over there on the left. This wall is on the axis, but then all these faces and things, those are going to be in an axis going down here where the vanishing point lays down here. Now it could be 1 point perspective, seeing that you're doing a 2 point, a 3 point, but in this case I have a 3 point perspective. And as soon as I have those points, I'm able to more consistently place objects in the space that I've created so that they make sense. And the main idea for the composition, at least for these buildings and the character on the left here, is that they are going to be a lot darker than the rest of the line work. That is sort of going to bring them in the foreground and make them the focal point. This chunk of building with the catwalk and this chunk of building is on the same plane as this, right there. You know, so these perspective lines are all going to be establishing these planes. I'll draw everything in perspective and pencil it out and get it nailed down. I'll go back through and ink this freehand. That's just going to give it a rougher look. It's going to give it more of a feel of that this building is weathered and things, but you want to have the foundation of it being in perspective in order to pull that off. When drawing multiple objects in the same area, not every single building that you place, not every single item that you establish is going to exist on the same plane. Because technically you would think, okay, we're on the right side of this vanishing point. We're on the right side. Shouldn't these lines be going towards that vanishing point? Because the catwalk over here, you know, these lines are going towards that vanishing point. This horizon line and independent objects existing on this horizon line, because this isn't a building, it's not a structure, and a structure is just going to be static in place forever. But people, cars, trash cans, whatever it is, I could have a box right here sitting, you know, like this on the ground. And this box doesn't need to go to that vanishing point because it's its own independent object. Because this driver didn't park this car exactly, 90 degrees parallel to this building. What just a simple beginner level vanishing point exercise looks like. Like, we know that train track going into one space, and then people draw the buildings all in perspective. That single vanishing point would look almost factory made or like irregular, or like it wasn't real, I guess, the midpoint of these 2 points. And it came out to be 19 1/8 inch. That's a pain in the ass. No, thank you. I don't want to measure that. So what you're able to do in this situation is extend up and down the points that you want to find the middle of. And it's essentially just an old carpenter's trick where you just find an easy number to divide into 2 if you want to find the middle. In this case, I use 20, and then I just make a mark at 10. And then if I do that same thing up above, that is going to give me another line in perspective. Over this little time lapse, I'm doing that more, but I'm dividing areas into 6 spaces, 4 spaces. You can use the number 10 and divide that into 5 spaces by making a mark at every 2 inches or centimeters, whatever it is. This is a trick that's helped me a lot because you just keep getting lines in perspective. Divide an area equally into 4 or 5 spaces, however many spaces you want. It could be every inch, it could be 2 inches, 3 inches, however you vibe, however you feel. So I was lucky enough to meet Kim Jong-gi back in 2019. I went to one of his lectures. I feel like you can't really make a perspective video without talking about Kim Jong-gi because he was such a legend. He was able to imagine things in boxes sort of immediately and kind of break down how form exists in space. And one of the biggest things that I took away, how a horizon line and an eye level line, which are essentially the same thing, are made up of just an infinite amount of points. And anything that exists in your scene can have a vanishing point going back into space along the horizon line in any way. Like, I'm not gonna perspective out this chord right here. I'm just gonna eyeball that because I have these 2 grid lines to go off of. A hell of a lot shorter than I initially had it. That matches up, and then this is gonna match up like that to make that box for the sniper's nest. I get that curve like that, and then I have the basket that the sniper's nest is in. Like, this line right here is the midpoint, right? Maybe there's another box, another level. Make sure that's in perspective. Where I'm not measuring everything out. Like, a lot of what this Humvee was just kind of matching up vanishing point up top and kind of just like sussing it out. Because these tires, I was drawing the ellipse. I've made it up here like this, implying that, the wheel was maybe turned a little bit to the right. One of the biggest upgrades, I feel like, is once you're able to imagine objects existing in space and breaking them down just into simple primitive shapes like a cube or a sphere or a cylinder, perspective and drawing spaces and people existing in space becomes way easier. His head is in perspective. So establishing those forms as well. Peeking over his shoulder, you got a strap backpack on. And this would be his torso, this would be his front leg, his pelvis. And that makes him look kind of like he has love handles, which I don't want. Now I'm just trying to think of whether or not which leg should be going forward. And then it bunches up. Do I do something like that where he's carrying the bag and he's walking, looking over the shoulder over this way? Brickwork and doors and stuff like that, and signage. A lot of it's going to be gray, but he's going to be very, very dark. I'm not facing this. This is a good point to say. When it comes to drawing a Humvee, drawing a sniper's nest, drawing a crane, drawing a window, you're gonna want to pull reference from multiple angles and multiple sources and sort of jarble the object together with these resources and create the thing that you want to make, instead of simply just finding like what I used to do is find a 3D object and then draw that reference in my comic panels, and it created sort of like this distance between the rest of the stuff that I drew and the object that I pulled reference for. Because when you jarble all these things together, it's still you putting the puzzle pieces together. And a Pinterest board of brickwork and architecture is just your puzzle pieces that you'll be able to use later down the line. Not every NPC is the same height. As much as Skyrim would have you believe that fact. People are different heights. There has yet to be any tone applied. I do know where the tone is going to be because of the thumbnails on the left and right side and the character on the bottom left. Those are going to be the only areas that have heavy tone and heavy black. And the rest of the background is going to appear mostly in line work. And then as far as coloring goes, I plan on dropping the crane and those hexagonal buildings, dropping the contour line of that, maybe to like a navy blue or some kind of lighter color for the contour lines, so those appear to be farther in the background, sort of creating like an atmospheric perspective. But yeah, a lot of the final penciling stages is noodling, going back, refining, and just getting nerdy about shit. Because like you want to have your world feel lived in and feel realistic. So like when somebody looks at, I'm gonna grab some reference for this electrical box or this trash can, whatever, you know, multiple or this bundle of electrical boxes, because I want people to look at that and immediately know, oh, that's a electrical box. Like I've seen that before, like on the side of my house, you know. You know, is the mortar thicker over here? Like just nerdy ass detail. The cranes, you know, where are the levels, where's the ladders, looking at that kind of thing. So yeah, this is pretty much as close as it's going to be in the inking video, because I'm going to do an inking video. I'm going to ink this whole page. And that's pretty much how penciling goes. There's a lot of erasing, there's a lot of carving out and thinking. If you guys could tune back in next week, I'm going to ink this double page spread. Thank you guys for watching. I hope it helped you out. I hope you got a little sprinkle of some kind of help. And if it did help you, it'd be cool if you liked the video as well. And maybe subscribed if you're new. If this is the first video you saw, I got 2 other videos in the back and on the back burners. Is it my slogan now to get on your ass and go draw? Is that what my slogan is going to be? Because I'm cool with that. I don't know if I've stolen that from somewhere. I really don't know if I took that from somewhere. I don't think I did, but it rings true. Get on your ass, go draw. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.